30 Odd Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Another
good
fine
solid
landing.
one there, huh?
Oh, man. We need airbags
Whoa,
on this
where
thing.
are we?
Where are we?
Whoa, looks like we've touched down in the middle of a rock concert.
Oh, this is kind of cool. I hope they don't see us. Engine room, are you there? Do we have a damage report? Everything okay? I guess everything's okay. As we're going to be able to take off in half hour? Do you find me attractive, Matt?
I don't think he's listening.
I don't think he's
word.
listening either.
No,
Anyway,
but that's okay.
Totally okay. What was your first concert?
Oh, geez, Elvis Costello and Squeeze, 1981.
No kidding.
Yeah, great show.
Mine was in excess.
Oh, yeah,
It was
show.
It was on Earth too, which is good. I mean, it was great. It was the 1980s. Their Kick tour was a lot. Of
pretty cool.
Good times. So this past weekend, I got to go to San Antonio, Texas.
Isn't there something about that we're supposed to remember?
There's something we were supposed to remember there, and I don't quite recall what it was. Oh, right. The Alamo. Yeah. So I got to see the Alamo, and it was really cool to go inside, and I even added my own little touch to it. I remembered the Alamode, which you can see. There's ice cream there. You know what I learned? Texans take this place remarkably seriously.
Really? I wouldn't expect that.
I wouldn't either.
No.
But anyway, it was a lot of fun. I had once interviewed one of the former chief of security for the Alamo, and he talked about being in there after hours and getting his uniform burnt by. There's stories of flaming Diablos and all kinds of things there. And what's in New England. History is just preserved. There's tons of old buildings, and in Texas, it's a little more rare to find these great old buildings. But it was really cool to be inside there, and of course, hang out at the Phantom Fest and lots of cool people.
And eat ice cream.
And eat ice cream. Yeah. And one of those cool people is with us tonight.
Great.
Which is good because we're so not qualified to talk about rock and roll ghosts, obviously. So let's get to it. You ready?
Yeah, I'm all set.
All right. So they say rock and roll will never die. And perhaps that's also true of some of the rock and rollers. From recording studios to theaters, the world is full of places said to be haunted by those who once left a huge impression through their music. And sometimes the artists who came to perform at these venues end up leaving with an experience that's more than they bargained for. Tonight's guest will share some accounts from her forthcoming book, Rockstar Ghost Stories. Please welcome, beaming to us live from San Antonio, Texas, Angelka Rogers.
Yeah, welcome, Angelka.
Hey, how y'all doing?
I'm good, Jel. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's great to talk to you. I've known Jel for a number of years. She's worked at haunts. Right out of college, she worked for a rock radio station. She's got, it looks like she has clothes on. Those are tattoos on her arms. Those
amazing.
That's not clothes. That's all tattoos. So obviously she's well qualified.
Yes.
Obviously. So Jel, you've been around rock music your whole life, college and so on. What drew you to Rockstar Ghost Stories?
Oh, well, actually, I took a friend of mine, April Slaughter, to a concert here in San Antonio for her birthday a few years back, and we ended up being pulled backstage and talking to some of the bands and telling them what we do. And they had a few things to say, and I thought afterwards, wouldn't it be cool if we went around interviewing these guys to see what kind of experiences they've had? And I was really interested to see what they had to say. And April was like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Right, and so April's working on this project with you, and if you saw the two of these ladies together, you wouldn't be shocked that they got pulled backstage at a rock concert. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. But here's the thing. I know you're also a paranormal investigator, and you've done lots of work at historic haunts all around Texas, and you've visited many others along the way. And April, Jel, that credibility is such a huge factor. Some of these rock stars doing some drugs, am I right?
Yeah, some of the interviews that I've done have been hysterical listening back.
Oh, Something paranormal just happened. Don't worry, we'll fix it later. Everything's fine. So anyway, so let's get started. Let's jump into one of these places. Tell us about the Eagles Club in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
All right. From the very first interview that I did for the book was with a band called My Darkest Days, which I don't believe is actually together anymore. But Sal and Reed came out, and I interviewed them about their personal experiences. And they together had a story about this place called The Rave, which I later found out is a club that's also inside the Eagles Ballroom. And subsequently, I talked to other bands, and the more I interviewed, the more bands had stories about this place. So it really intrigued me.
Right. So Eagles Club, now we've got some historic photos of it. There's the exterior of the Eagles Club, of course, and there's a great old historical shot. It looks like it's right out of the Stanley.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
The Shining movie, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So how long has this place been there?
Well, I believe it was opened in 1926, and it was for the Fraternal Order of Eagles.
Okay.
So, but different bands have told me different stories about the history, and I think it's kind of cool. Although there's obviously something going on there, they kind of played the telephone game, and everybody heard from another person who heard from another person what the background of this place was. And I had some of them telling me that it used to be owned by the mafia, and there were tortures going on there. Some of them told me that there's this chair that you can't move there, or else something really bad will happen during your show. And you know how rockers are. You know, they're rowdy, drinking, going around challenging authority. So, of course, they always move the chair. Some of them said it was the electrician's chair. Some of them said that it was the lifeguard's chair who let someone drown in the pool. They kind of told me that the pool area down below was kind of like a YMCA from the 20s almost.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
They all have these different stories about what went on to make the hauntings happen and what the history of the place was. But the most interesting part to me is that they keep telling me it's right across the street from the Ambassador Hotel, where Jeffrey Dahmer's last victim was killed, in 2 blocks from his apartment.
Nice. So there's history all around this building, and do you find these guys being, to be particularly superstitious, or are they just like you said, just defiant and want to challenge whatever's there?
No, most of them don't have a lot of religious background that would conflict with any kind of ghosts that they see. So they go in, they get a little creeped out. A lot of people that I interviewed, they mentioned the Eagles Ballroom and the Rave, not necessarily because something happened to them there, but they just felt creeped out there. But several of them have their own stories there.
Yeah. Are any funny, or are they all kind of frightening?
Oh, there's a few that were jacking with the chair, whether it's the lifeguard's chair or the electrician's chair, I'm not sure. But of course, they always challenge the rumor that something will happen if they touch the chair. And several of them did have things happen, like those guys, Sal and Reed from My Darkest Days. They had a lot of equipment problems at the Eagles Ballroom. And it was funny because it was just the ones who messed with the chair.
In paranormal investigation, we always talk about like batteries draining mysteriously, electrical stuff getting messed with. Are they finding that as well with some of their gear,
Yes.
Besides, like you said, the gear of the guys who messed with the chair. But I mean, does it become a scapegoat where if anything goes wrong with the gear, you just blame the ghost there? Is it got to that point yet?
Well, most of the guys that I talk to go in knowing about this, and not all of them have had technical problems there. The ones that I talked to that had the worst problems were down there in the basement exploring and being silly. So they, of course, blamed it on the ghost that messes with the chair, or that won't let you mess with the chair. One thing that I found really interesting about the guys from My Darkest Days is when they had their guitars tuned, they went and started playing and rehearsing, and about 2 minutes in, the guitar would untune itself really badly.
Yeah.
So it was their equipment was untuning. A lot of different bands are experiencing like complete failure of different pieces of equipment there, and it just won't come back until somebody who didn't mess with the chair touched it, is what they said.
So they do get superstitious. Whatever gets you working.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you've got this great venue, the Eagles Club, but there's also recording studios, and when you think about some of the famous recording studios around the country, legends, right? Legends recorded there, and that's why other people want to record there. They want to be where Elvis was or whoever, Tell us about the Bearsville Studio in Woodstock, New York. Woodstock, of course, home of a little rock concert that took place a little while ago.
It was pretty successful.
Yeah, it did all right, but this studio has a ghost. Tell us about it.
Bearsville Studio is a really historic studio where a lot of major musicians have recorded, I was told. And Christopher Hall, who is now the singer for The Dreaming, but used to be the lead singer for Stabbing Westward, gave me a little bit of insight into what happened to him when he was recording there. And what I found really interesting is he was recording in a place called The Barn, and I have a photo of that somewhere if you can find it.
There it is.
What he experienced there in the apartments and inside the Barn studio is just remarkable. And all of the band members were scared. They all ended up sleeping together in one room with some of the stuff that happened there.
Give us an example. What did they experience?
Well, they experienced the sense of being watched, of course, but there was movement of objects and a lot of electrical stuff happening with the TV turning on and off by itself. Something actually woke him up at night to where he ran and actually was pushed into a wall where he put a hole in the wall.
Oh my God.
Now, did he actually see something that woke him up, or he just had the sensation of something waking him up?
I don't remember exactly what he said about that. I'm thinking that something woke him up and scared. Oh, it was the covers being pulled off. I think.
Okay, so it was something physically happened before he ran.
The covers got pulled off, and he freaked out and ran. And he said as he was running, something pushed him he was running down a hall. Something pushed him into the hallway, and it actually punctured the sheetrock. And they were going to have him pay for it because they thought he was just drunk and punching walls. He's a rock star. But that wasn't the case. And there was no explaining to the studio that, no, there's a ghost. That's what did it.
Yeah.
And I mean, have there been other ghostly reports? I mean, when they bring this up to the studio, does the studio say, "Yeah, all right, you're not the first to talk about this"?
Good question.
He did say that they said, "Oh, so did you have some encounters there?" And he said, "Why? Why would you say that?" And they do know that stuff goes on there, but apparently it doesn't happen to everyone. So they weren't going to refund him the price of the studio or the rooms that they were staying in just because they all slept in one room.
Have you heard any theories on why it could be haunted?
Yeah, I haven't really delved into that part yet. We're just collecting the stories right now.
So you don't know of anybody who's died at the studio or on the land before the studio was there?
Said that there's been a lot of bands for a long, long time that have recorded there, and that place is closed down now.
Okay.
Gotcha. And of course, Woodstock is iconic, from the concert,
right.
In 1969 and so on. But sometimes we just don't know. And what's great is I love the fact that these guys aren't going there looking for ghosts.
No, they were there for another reason.
They're going there to record, and you get surprised by something. But you forget too, like these folks are people, and they have interests just like we do. I remember you've probably seen Meatloaf on the Ghost Hunters show,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
He's tagged along with the Ghost Hunters on a couple of investigations. I've personally emailed with the drummer from Poison, who is huge into this stuff. He goes on tour And Ricky Rocket, he'll go on tour, and while they're staying someplace, before the show, he'll run out and check out local haunts and local mysteries, because this stuff just interests him.
I even heard that Alice Cooper was chased out of an abandoned property that they were going to write and record in, and somebody didn't want them in the house, I guess, with their rock and roll lifestyle, and they went running.
Yeah.
So not the first, I guess.
No, not at all. And sometimes this stuff bleeds into their music. Jill, have you had any examples where some of these artists have said, you know what, it actually inspired a song?
Actually, April got an interview sort of like that. Now, I only heard the brief summary of it, but Jonathan Davis from Korn has a very unique way of writing some music, is what I've heard from April.
That's cool. Very cool. All right, Jill, stay with us. We're going to take a break for the news. We're going to a video clip you want to check out, and then we're going to come back and talk about some more rock star ghost stories. We'll be right back.
A very interesting surveillance video has recently emerged showing what may be the image of a ghost. What makes this video so intriguing is that it was released to the public by the police department in Espanola, New Mexico. The ghostly image of what looks like a person walking through a chain-link fence was also seen at that moment by Officer Carl Romero as he monitored the station's security cameras. Officer Romero inspected the area but could find nothing. He then reported the incident to his superiors for further investigation. Apparently, this is just one of many creepy things that have been experienced by staff at this police station since it was opened in 2006. Officers have reported seeing strange things in the lobby and hearing noises that can't be easily explained. Some have even claimed to have felt the sensation of someone breathing down their neck while working in one particular office. Members of the Espanola Police Department have stated that they do believe the station is haunted. One theory as to why this could be is that there have been some unsolved murders not too far from there, and that possibly the spirits of those victims are trying to get the police's attention. I'm Andrew Lake, and oddly enough, that's the news.
That video clip's pretty cool.
It is, and especially since the police released it, and they seem to be so forward about it.
And I think that tells you something, that we're coming along, in the paranormal, because 10 years ago...
No, that would never have happened.
Delete it, throw it away.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
And it's pretty cool that not only they released it, they talked about it on the local news. Angelka Rogers, have you seen that clip before?
No, actually, I can't see anything of what you. I can't see you guys anymore.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we got hit by an asteroid or something. The ship took a hit.
Well, you're not missing much. It's all good. But it's just pretty cool when these video clips make the rounds, and
especially from a source like that.
Yeah, made the from the police. All right, so our own Matt in the engine room. Matt, I know you've had an experience talking to the guys from Blue Oyster Cult, right?
Yeah, actually, I've been friends with those guys for years and did ghost hunts with them down in Florida, but quite a few of their songs are based on paranormal experiences that they've had and stuff like that. So, yeah, there are other major bands that are into this stuff.
Don't Fear the Reaper.
Oh, God,
I'm just
great
saying,
song, too.
Just saying. Jill, if you want to contact, we'll hook you up with Blue Oyster Cult.
Awesome.
So you can also not fear the Reaper. All right, so cool. So there's lots more places to talk about. I know we have a very limited amount of time, but a haunt that we've talked about before, Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
How can you not talk about it?
Well, you don't usually think of it as a rock venue.
That's true.
Yeah. How did that come about, Jill?
Well, I was checking out some stuff online, and I happened to see a clip of something that Chad Kalick had done, one of his projects called Paranormal, and he had all different rock bands in there investigating Waverly Hills. And the part that I really love about this is that these guys from 10 years are Lewis and Jesse. Mm-hmm. Are really huge skeptics, and they went in just thinking, okay, yeah, this is ridiculous. We're not going to see anything. But they had some really extreme stuff happen to them in there, and my interview was with Lewis. But yeah, they had some experiences, and he ended up telling me that he is now a believer, no longer a skeptic.
Can you give us an example of what he saw inside?
Shadow people, objects being thrown at them, stuff like that.
Have you been inside, Jill? Have you been into Waverly Hills before?
No, actually I haven't. Amazingly enough. Somehow I haven't made it out there yet.
Yeah, Matt in the back has. I've been in there. That's one of those places where I'm not sensitive, I'm not psychic, I'm nothing. But you walk into that building, and I just remember going, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
This place is freaky. And I had an experience in there too. One of a handful I've only had in 20 years of doing this. And Matt had a crazy video, which I didn't want to talk about, Matt, because then people would expect to see it, and we don't have it ready.
Well, they can go to my website. I've got it up there.
All right, you can go to Andrew's website and check it out. But it's a really crazy clip shot in night vision where you see this guy pop out of a door and pop back in as Matt's walking down the hall. And it's just one of those places that, I would never tell you any location is haunted all the time.
But
well, I'd come pretty close, with
yeah.
a place like Waverly, and that's cool that Chad Kalick brought the rock and rollers there. I imagine maybe some of them got a little more than they bargained for. It's cool when you see people become a believer like that.
Yeah, that was really cool to have him tell me that, he was a hardcore, die-hard skeptic and left there a believer. I think that's awesome. That's pretty cool.
And I imagine in your years of doing ghost tours, too, around San Antonio, you must have seen that as well with other people.
Yeah, I have. But I loved the band 10 years, and to see them turn into believers in what I do was amazing.
Yeah, very cool. All right, we got one more stop on our haunted tour. We're going to head up to Rochester, New York this time. The Main Street Armory, Jill. Tell us about this place.
The Main Street Armory, apparently... sorry.
No, don't be.
Hailstorm is the ones that told me about that.
Mm-hmm.
And told me that it's an old armory, and the whole band was there, and the whole band did the interview. They were telling me that there are kind of these cell blocks down underneath, and they weren't sure exactly how old the building was. They were guessing maybe World War I. I don't really know, but and they had different things in all of these different cell blocks, like just strange things, like costume jewelry and hats, and sometimes there'd be dummies and stuff that was left over from it being an armory as well. But they all had experiences walking down there, not looking for it to be spooked out, but actually looking for a person down there to ask them a question. And they got the woohoo scared out of them. Some of them from just hearing footsteps and sensing somebody and seeing people around that weren't there, that people that they thought were someone else.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
Yeah, what is it about armories? They seem to be haunted. There's a few of them around that have haunted reputations.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've heard of other haunted armories as well. Yeah, some buildings just lend themselves more than others. And I think, especially when you have a building with a lot of human activity, wartime, and then turned into a music venue, you've got people coming and going, all that human activity. I don't know, what do you think, Jill? Do you think that's charging it up? Do you have a theory as to why some of these places get this haunted reputation?
Well, I think that there are different parallel dimensions that are running simultaneously with different time periods. So I think that, every different reality and different dimension is kind of running parallel. And every once in a while, they bump into each other, and either they see us or we see them. And sometimes both happens. We can see them and they see us at the same time. That's why sometimes we get them asking, "Are you ghosts? Are you angels come to take us away? Who are you?" And we're kind of asking the same thing.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the idea that, rock stars are artists, and artists are usually more sensitive than the average person? Do you think being entertainers, being sensitive people, that may open them up to these experiences, whether they're believers or not?
I do. And in the first interview that I mentioned with the guys from My Darkest Days, I found it really interesting that during their interview and afterwards, they came out to one of the haunted places that I was giving tours at the time, and I was using an induction amplifier, and neither one of these guys had a cell phone on them at the moment. They had played 2 gigs that day, and then they came out, and we were in an area with no electricity, and I turned on the induction amp, and it was just going crazy, like they were fully charged with something, and I turned it to myself, nothing. Turned it to both of them. There's some sort of resonance that is emitted when they're playing music that stays with them and maybe makes them more open to those paranormal experiences.
Yeah, no, it's interesting stuff. All right, Jill, $1 million question. Have you ever encountered the ghost of Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't recognize him if I did.
Well, because we've had some questions coming from our chat room, folks who are watching live at 30oddminutes.com. They wanted to know, the ghost of Keith Richards, is he lurking out there? And we were quick to point out that
he's still alive.
He's still alive, but I think that's up for debate.
Yeah, they've taken his blood out quite a few times.
Yeah.
I know that.
I'm not certain he's alive like we think of alive.
Yeah, right.
That's a terrible picture of him.
Walking dead.
He's
either a rock star or a pugwudgie.
Yeah, he's a poor Keith Richards. But yeah, no, and it's one of these things too. I think it's a great question about artists being more sensitive. Yeah. But also, the other thing too is I think about like human energy, and I know we've all been to concerts that were terrible. You walk in and the room is just terrible. And the strange thing is, it's when it's a band you've seen before, and they were amazing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's different?
Yeah.
What's different? Every room, every performance has its own unique energy. And some nights it's off the hook, and everybody's blown away, and the band's awesome, and the crowd's awesome.
And then sometimes it just doesn't gel.
Doesn't go. It just falls flat. And I wonder if some of these venues are, we talk about like the Main Street Armory being made of stone. Is it literally absorbing some of this energy that gets put into it night after night by all these people and all these people coming and going? And then it gets to replay it at some point. And think about, too, these musicians get to be in these locations when it's quiet, right? You're there for the show. You're there when the staff's there and it's all crowded. They're there early doing sound check.
Yeah.
And they're late when everyone else left and they're packing up and getting out of there. And so you wonder, the building's been charged up all night. Jell, have you noticed any pattern as to when these guys are having experiences, whether if it's long after or long before the shows?
Usually setting up and afterwards, but a lot of the stuff that happened with equipment failure obviously is in the middle of the show.
Yeah, right. That's when you nothing like doing some explaining to the audience. We can relate. We've done that more than once.
Yeah.
The mothership here, which is held together with duct tape and a dream. has failed us on one or two occasions over the years, but what are you going to do? So what about ghosts of famous rock stars? Have you had any encounters with that? I can think of a time I actually got to go to Graceland, which is said to be haunted by the King, Elvis. Any famous rock star ghosts have you encountered, Jill?
I have not. Now, that is an interesting thing to research, but most of the bands that I talk to are just giving their own personal experiences, be it from childhood or any time during their lives, and sometimes from the road, hotels and venues. But I wanted to make it a point to try and get interviews from bands who have lost a band member. I haven't yet been able to talk about that in particular with anyone, even though I did interview one band who had lost a band member. That didn't come up in the interview.
Right.
So, I'm looking forward to getting some of those bands that have lost a band member and maybe seen them again.
Sure. There's plenty out there. Spinal Tap's drummer.
Yeah, I know. You lose him every time they turn around.
Drummers, every day they're losing another drummer. Of course, Leonard Skinner. You can think of so many bands that have gone through losing members. And that's got to be, these guys, it's like a marriage. It's like a family.
Sure. And then to lose somebody like that, it's got to leave some kind of emotional gap.
Some kind of hole. And some of them deal with it with music or...
Yeah, or break up,
Yeah, no, that's such a thing, man. It's a great topic, Jill. And so I know you're working on lots of stuff. You're working on the Russell Rush Haunted Tour show down there in Texas, which is really cool. And you're still doing lots of paranormal investigations and this project, which is forthcoming with you and, of course, April Slaughter. It just seems like it was cool. I remember the first time you told me about this project, I just thought it was awesome. And just what endless possibilities for stories. You could probably do multiple volumes, I imagine.
Yeah, that's what we've been thinking. We've, over the last couple of years, been accumulating stuff and been wondering, should we do volume 1, volume 2? Should we save it all up for one big one? We're not quite sure yet, but it's coming.
Awesome stuff. Jill, we are out of time. I appreciate you boarding the mothership with us tonight. Folks, from all of us to all of you, until next time, please do stay odd.